Imagine if a hacker got into your website and replaced all the copy with your competitors and no one even noticed. Why? Because your copy sounded just like everyone else's. Yikes! That's one of the biggest copywriting red flags that we're tackling in today's episode. Let's do this. Welcome to the High Conversion Health Marketer Podcast, the show that helps you craft memorable copy and messaging that connects, captivates, and converts. I'm your host, Linda Melone, founder of the CopyWorx, and my emails have landed clients some pretty major contracts. So my mission is to help you, the health and fitness marketer, attract your ideal customer with copy they can't resist so you can grow your business. In today's episode, you will learn how to spot the biggest copywriting red flags that can tank your conversions, turn away prospects, and in general just cause you to lose business. These sneaky mistakes quietly sabotage your copy, leaving readers confused, bored, or worst of all, just not interested. But today, we are going to call them out. Well, I'm going to call them out and I'm going to show you how you can fix them. So here's a fun fact and a little bit of background to the idea for this whole podcast. I posted on LinkedIn last week about this subject. I made a carousel, which I'll provide the links down below, and it went viral faster and bigger than anything I've done in probably about a year. At this recording, I had 50,600 views. Crazy viral for me, considering that most of my posts on LinkedIn, if I'm lucky, they get 1,000 views. And this is just for a number of reasons, the algorithm, whatever you want to blame, but it hasn't been that great lately. So for this post to take off like that, and there's so many people shared it, I knew I must have really struck a nerve. So I wanted to dig deeper in this podcast to include the things that I talked about in my post, but also include a couple of extra ones. So for a total of 9 red flags that could be killing your copy. So let's just dive right in. Number 1 red flag, using too much marketing speak. So what do I mean by this? This is when your copy sounds like it's from a corporate boardroom. Expect crickets if you do this, because a lot of times that's exactly what AI is going to write for you. So if you're really relying on AI, it's definitely going to be spitting out these corporate words like synergistic solutions, leveraging best-in-class innovation, and all the rest of it. I think you know what I'm talking about here. So how do you fix it? So first of all, you need to recognize it. And the way you recognize it, and this is the way that I figure out, is it corporate speak or not? Ask yourself, do people wake up using this language? Do they wake up and say, I really need a synergistic solution for this problem? No. Chances are no. Anyway, so what you want to do is make it more conversational. So you do this by using contractions like your as Y-O-U apostrophe R-E, like you are, we've, we have, instead of separate words, because it just makes it sound less stiff and it's how we normally speak. So write how you speak, and more importantly, actually write how your audience speaks if it's different than you. Imagine explaining your product or service to a friend. What language would you use? And use words that, your audience uses and you hear all the time, so they know that you relate to them and you understand them. Number 2, you want to avoid overusing negative framing. So what I mean by this is we talk a lot about problem, agitation, solution as one of the most popular and easy to remember and most effective copywriting formulas. But if you really focus too much on the negative part, you could overstep, especially in the health and fitness industry. So you have to be careful to balance it with positives. So instead of always saying, using fear-based copy, like stop losing customers or anything that really hones in on the negative aspect of what your client or potential customer is going through, instead think of flipping it. Attract loyal customers who can't wait to buy from you, okay? Instead of stop losing customers. That's one example. So you want to just look at how often you're using the negative way to sell and see if you can flip some of those to a positive. A balance is really what we're striving for here, okay, without overdoing it. Number 3, the third red flag, you want to make sure you're making your copy about your audience and not you. So this is really easy to fix. And I do this all the time with my own copy. Go through it, see how many times you're using language that says we, I, ours, versus you as if you're speaking outwardly to your audience. We offer expert level copywriting services would not be something I would use. It would be like you get flawless copy without the hassle. So what is the benefit to the person who is reading it? And, you know, the whole thing behind this is people say, oh, well, no one cares about you. You know, they care about themselves. And I always get like an eye roll or something. But the thing is, we're the same way. When you're looking for something, you don't really care what the company has done or what they're telling you about themselves as much as when they tell you how they're going to help you solve your problem, right? Fourth red flag, using overly complex copy. This is sort of related to marketing speak, but it's a little bit more than that. So studies have shown, and I get pushback on this all the time, that writing at a 5th grade level is most readable regardless of the education level of the reader. So even PhDs and people with all kinds of advanced degrees, they will get through your copy faster if it's written at a 5th grade level. This does not mean you're talking down to them. It means you're using simple words, avoiding complex words that are like speed bumps in your copy so that people don't have to slow down. I think it's Flesch or Flesch, I think it's pronounced F-L-E-S-C-H. It's an app that you can it's free. You go on there, you plug in a copy, cut and paste your copy into this, and it'll tell you at what grade level you are writing. And most people are way over 5th grade. So you just have to, it's not easy to do that. You have to really work at it. Number 5, the 5th red flag is when you use too many calls to action. So throughout the page, you know, you could be asking people to just subscribe or download or follow us, and you do it all at once so that they don't know which one to do, which one to use, and so they will do nothing. So be super clear with just decide on one call to action. You can use different ones throughout the copy, but in one place, you want to just stick with the one main one that you want them to do. Have a goal for your copy. Number 6, this one I see quite a bit, is you want to avoid being cute over clear. Clarity is everything with your copy. People don't have time to figure out what the heck you're trying to say. If they're not sure because you're using cutesy words, or there's a word that has a dual meaning, or there's something that they have to guess, you know, are they talking about this, or what does this mean? They're not going to work that hard, and they're going to bypass it. So think clear. How clear is your message? Number 7, this is one of my favorite big mistakes because I see it so often and it's so important, is if you have a weak or vague or completely missing value proposition, this is what clearly states what makes who you help, how you help them, what makes you different from your competition, and that should all be very clear on your page. You want this to be different than what your competitors are doing, or it doesn't have to be different than what they're doing, but something they're not talking about. So who are you? Who do you serve? And what can you do that your competitors can't or don't speak about? Okay, number 8, 8th red flag, and this is related to what I just said. So if your copy can be swapped out with your competitors, that is a huge red flag. So if you have nailed your unique value proposition and it's solid and you know it differentiates you from everybody else, you won't have this problem because they won't have interchangeable messages. Not that anyone's actually going to hack into your site and replace yours with theirs, but hypothetically, if they could do that and not lose, and you wouldn't lose anything, and they would not see a difference between what you had and what is there now, you want to make sure you really clarify your value prop. And then lastly, if your copy lacks a strong hook, you hear about this all the time, but that first line, if it's a video, is the first couple of seconds, that is where you need to grab your reader or your viewer, in this case, reader, because if they are not captivated right off the bat, they're not going to keep reading. So if it's a subject line, a headline, a start of a social media post, even on LinkedIn, I'm very careful with what I put as the first line because a lot of times that's all people see. You want to make sure it's a bold statement, surprising fact, maybe something controversial even, a compelling question, vivid scenario. I mean, the only post I did a few years ago that had more views than this one so far is when I asked, is the F word acceptable in marketing copy? And it was a poll, actually, and I had over 100,000 views on that. And there was a lot of arguing in the comments, but it blew up a lot of people engaged with me, a lot of people connected with me and followed me after that. So it's because that was the first line I said, F-bombs, and I put an actual icon, a little emoji of a bomb. Are they appropriate in marketing? And that is something that really people got fired up about. Bottom line to that, by the way, is it's not a big deal for most people. It's kind of in the middle of the road. So to recap, all of these 9 points that I brought up, 9 red flags, let me just run through them really quickly with you. Using too much marketing speak. Okay, keep it conversational. Number 2, overusing negative framing. Make sure that you have positive words in there for your audience as well as some negative. Number 3 is make your copy about your audience, not about you. Number 4, avoid using overly complex words and complex copy. 5, avoid using too many calls to action. Stick with one at a time. 6 is being cute instead of clear. So you want to make sure your copy is clear and not something they have to figure out. 7 is if you have a weak or, heaven forbid, a missing value proposition. That is a huge problem. And then if number 8, your copy could be swapped out for your competitors, which relates to what I just said about the value prop, that's not good. And lastly, your copy needs a strong hook. So that is about really having, you want to be having a conversation. You want to balance the negative with the positive. Always make it about your audience, not you. And ask yourself, do any of these red flags sound familiar? So look at your own copy on your website right now. If you're not sure where your copy stands, I've got you covered. Reach out to me, linda@thecopyworx.com, or DM me on LinkedIn, and I'll help you out if I can, and we'll chat. So that's it for today's episode of the High Conversion Health Marketers Podcast. If you found this helpful, share it with a friend, and please leave a review. It really helps me out a lot, and it helps to reach other people who may find this as valuable as you. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.